Ilene Shapiro is joining us today. She's a Summit County executive. Fantastic. It's great having her. She is a resident of West Akron, has served Summit County in many roles throughout the years. She has a wonderful bio that we have on our newsletter. I'm going to just touch on a few things real quick. Ilene became the 5th Summit County executive in August of 2016. She manages a budget of nearly $500 million in 9 departments, including community and economic development, HR, job and family services, and law, to name a few. Okay. She served on the Summit County Council for 10 years, where she was president for 3 years of that. So Ilene, we welcome you, and we're going to, I'm going to get out of the way and let you go. Okay.
Well, hello, everybody. I see lots of familiar faces out there. So hello, can you all hear me? Hi. And John, wherever you are, there you are, John Daly. I will be, my husband and I were married 53 years this year. So my heart is with you as you remember this day. So our hearts are with you today. Malcolm, Mella, Julie, there's a bunch of you out there. You know me also well. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, as I always do. As you can imagine, my calendar is quite hectic, but there's nothing more important than being with people who are making things happen in their own communities, in their own businesses, in their own enterprises every single day, because that's what makes our communities here in Summit County each unique and each special. There are 31 of them in Summit County, in case you all didn't know that, with about 540,000 people. We are the 4th largest county in the state of Ohio. And there are only 2 that operate with executives, myself and Summit County and Cuyahoga, and that's Armin Budish up in Cuyahoga. And no, I'm not trading jobs with Armin for anything in the world, so that's a good thing. So I was asked to talk about leadership today, and you know, leadership comes in all sizes and varieties and styles. But I think leadership, some of you may have heard me talk about heart share and mind share before. You know, having the heart for the work that you do and having the mind share about how you, what you need to do to help accomplish or make the difference that you are trying to make. And as Rotarians, I know that that is part of what you stand for, is making a difference. So you don't have to have a title to be a leader. People ask me that, how does it feel like to be a leader? And I have to tell you, I just do what I do, okay? I have good people around me, I have a wonderful community, a strong network, and it's about, for me, moving the community forward. So, you know, there are democratic leaders, there are authoritarian leaders, they call them laissez-faire leaders, that, you know, everybody kind of does their own thing. I think most leaders grow up by what they learn and the experiences that they have. Some leaders are very bureaucratic. It's what they say, this is the way we've always done it, and we're going to continue to do that. And I think that most of you out there realize that the times have changed. Everything is very, very fluid, and different times call for different styles of leadership. And I'm sure you could all name me people that have surprised you, that you didn't necessarily think of as a leader. You know, a big title like Mother Teresa, or Abraham Lincoln, or Rosa Parks, people that come from all different kinds of walks of life and stand up for different things and make a difference, not only in what they do, but the things that they touch. And I've also learned over the years that when you're in a leadership role, there are things that are probably within your control, and there's a whole lot of things that are beyond your control. And as we talk about leadership, I'd ask you all to think about somebody that you know and that you respect, but also somebody that surprised you. So think about it. If you've been in organizations, is it always the person that is the president or the executive director or whatever it happens to be? Are they always the folks that are getting the stuff done? Maybe they're the folks that are helping other people get stuff done. And oftentimes, years ago, when I was very, very active in Women's Network, and there were about 1,200 women, I always wanted to sit, I call it shotgun, you know, the right hand, okay, of somebody, because of whoever was in charge. Never wanted to be president or chair, because as the right-hand person, I could go about getting stuff done. When I became the president, now I'm speaking for a body of 1,200 people with all different ideas, all different purposes, and understanding that the roles are different. So sometimes leadership doesn't necessarily take the same approach, and sometimes it's teamwork. I have to tell you, folks, I am very blessed. I have some amazing, amazing folks that work with me at the county. And as we talk about some of the things that have gone on in the last few years, and we hit on them just before when you were talking to Phil about no grass growing under his feet at the moment. That's an understatement, because the last few years have been absolutely wild. But my role as county executive, I see to be highly strategic, highly facilitative, and highly relationship based. So for example, in a city, everybody works for the mayor except council, right? That's how it works. The police, the fire. In the county, it doesn't work that way at all. Okay, we have lots of county elected officials. You elect a prosecutor and an engineer and a clerk of courts and all the common police and blah, 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 all across the board, and county council. And then I have 31 different communities that have mayors and that have township trustees, or a variety thereof. And all of them are doing their own thing. They're all in their own roles, and they're all elected. So the key is to be able to pull everybody together to advance our community as a whole. So I owe a debt of gratitude to my years at First Merit, because it taught me a lot about what I think it takes to get things done, which is about collaboration. It's about talking to people. It's about having when I say difficult, I don't mean difficult in the terms of nasty, but hard to address issues that our community or different communities are facing. And we just have to all get in a room and drop our barriers. We've done a couple of programs that where we've actually brought in an outside consultant first when there have been tough conversations that have to happen to break down barriers to get some things moving forward, just to help us break down those barriers. Everybody wants to bring in a consultant and start day one. Let's get working. But you haven't broken down the barriers of communication or established some sort of level of agreement between the parties so that you can move forward. And we've had good fortune, because once that's established and those relationships are established, not only do you have an ongoing trust between you, but you have a platform from which to work, rather than just putting people in a room, deciding what you're going to do, and everybody goes off and does it, and then we're playing catch up and make up. So let me give you an example. When I first became county executive, not too long after that, my chief of staff at the time came to me and said 3 of our communities were going to go and start their own dispatch. They were going to go put it in. Now, the state would pay for 4. We anticipate someday that'll be 3. It's based on, what they'll fund is based on volume. And I said, well, that's goofy, because I have to do it for the sheriff's office, okay? So we put some people in a room, some of our communities in a room, those 3 communities, along with 1 or 2 others, and we had some of those hard conversations. And so today, after a lot of working through things, we have brought together, I think it's 7 different communities, some of whom, by the way, could afford to do their own dispatch if they wanted to. They came to the meetings. This has been probably a couple of year project, trying to figure out how you meet the needs of all of those communities. Remember, we're talking public safety here. We're talking 911. So those communities in the next 5 years, just those communities that come together, will have saved $7 million by working together, by talking through the issues, and by being able to do that. Let me tell you one of the cool things that I think that the technology will do. It's not up yet. It's in this next phase. But if God forbid you had a fire in your home, okay, you could take, and you're calling 911, you take a picture and take a snapshot, and the fire department will see what they're walking into when they get to your door. And I think that's pretty cool technology. So the platform that we have built is for all of our other communities, if and when their technology ages out, excuse me, or they want to, as a couple of ours did that came in on the front end of it. And under those circumstances, we create a council of governments so that everybody has a vote, if you will, that's in the earlier stages. So this is now something that could be countywide if those communities choose to participate. We always try to make it an opt-in, but you have to remember that those people are also frontline safety people that are at the table. These are also other elected officials that are trying to figure out in their communities. They are the leaders in their communities trying to make the best decisions that they can for their folks, while we're offering a platform that may or may not be of service to them now or in the future. So when I talk about collaboration, it's about talking to whoever's on the team, whether it's my team at the county, Malcolm right now, we reached out to Malcolm and we'll talk a little bit about that more about doing our utility assistance as part of COVID. We have amazing partners out there that say, how can I help? What can I do? Because we have built trust and collaboration. And I think that that is a cornerstone of what the county brings to the table. I don't have to have all of the ideas. I have to have all of you have all of the ideas, and all of my team have all of the ideas. So we are the first county in the state of Ohio to have paid parental leave, both for men and for women. That came to me from a council member. We are the second county in the state of Ohio to have a female vet, I always get the link, a female veterans homeless shelter. Okay. This came to me from somebody that worked in Jobs and Family Service, and they were talking about it over there. They had seen it in Portage County, and they were talking about it to a couple of people, and they said, oh, don't bother Eileen. Don't bother Eileen. So of course she bothered me at something, which didn't turn out to be a bother, by the way. And I said, well, why couldn't we do that in Summit County? So again, we brought the land bank and some of our other partners together to figure out how we could do that. And we had a groundbreaking, a ribbon cutting rather. And at the end of it, I was out talking to a couple of people, and there were 3 or 4 women standing there. Because remember, women come generally with the children, okay? So these are homeless female veterans that probably have children with them. And there were 3 or 4 women standing over there. So I walked over to talk to them. And I asked them what they thought. And it's near Suma in downtown Akron. And or on the edges, I should say, of downtown Akron. And I asked this one woman, what did she do in the military? And the other woman answers and says, well, she was part of the MPs. She was in the military, okay, in the police for the military. And I'm standing there. At the same time in our county, we have a program that Jobs and Family Service funded and came together to provide scholarships for our sheriff's deputies. And I'm looking at her and going, do you know about this program? Okay, because not only could she have housing, but within a year she could have housing and have the opportunity to have a job, of course, providing she passes all the tests and those kinds of things. That's what community and leadership and working together is all about. So let's go back in time to 2016 and 2017. The opioid issue, which we all know took many, many lives, tore families apart here, and just was devastating. On a daily basis, we were picking up the newspaper, not only in Summit County, but across the country, talking about how many deaths from opioids. So by 2017, I'd had it. And so some of you might have been at the state of the county when I declared a state of emergency. And we filed a lawsuit against the opioid distributors, manufacturers, and pharmaceutical companies. And we were joined by 22 or 23 of our communities as well. I did that to stop the behaviors. Of course, we needed some financial remuneration, but what we wanted was behavior change from these folks that were dumping pills and medications into our communities. Never expecting that there were over 2,000 lawsuits filed across the country. They were all enjoined in federal court in Cuyahoga County under Judge Polster. Judge Polster says, I'm not listening to 2,000 different communities. So he picked two, Summit and Cuyahoga, as the bellwether cases for these. So in addition to all the other things that the county does, we were chosen to be a bellwether case, which sets the tone and the tempo for future settlements. It was an absolutely yeoman's lift for my people and for the team, not only for the health department, for these other communities providing information, for our nonprofits, so on and so forth. It was record-breaking speed. Judge Polster wasn't letting any grass grow under his feet. And so he really pushed forward. He held to a deadline. And I am telling you, we are sitting in the courtroom in federal court, waiting for 9 o'clock. Jury had already been picked. We're sitting there, and I think a lot of you know Greta Johnson. Greta works for me, and Greta's in the row behind me, and she's poking at me, and I'm going, what? She's going, look at your phone, and I'm looking at my phone, and it says, we are very near a settlement. We're 20 minutes out from trial, okay? And then, of course, the buzz started in the room, and so we settled at the last minute. It was a huge settlement. It wasn't an even split, but it was a split between Summit and Cuyahoga. In terms of on a percentage basis. Now this is all before we have to pay legal fees and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, we have another lawsuit. I call them with the retailers, the Walgreens, the CVS's of the world in November. So the settlement was about $107 million in cash and $12 million in medications. And then there was about $3 million that were defined by the manufacturers of where they wanted the money to go to. So this is one-time money that's going to come into our community. And it would be, I think, malpractice to spend it all at one time. I think it's a one-time opportunity for us to re-engineer how we provide that delivery service for specifically opioids, but for addiction in our community. And so we put together something called the Opiate Abatement Advisory Council. We have, first we have the county. So let me be clear, it was a county settlement. So the money is the county. So the final say so will be county council and myself. We put together, a key stakeholders group, which consists of myself, the mayor of the city of Akron, Bill Judge, who is representing, from Barberton, of course, who's representing the Mayor's Association, somebody from the township, George Beckham from the Township Association, and of course the health department. So those are the key stakeholders. And then we have these 4 abatement areas, and these folks are working hard to be able to get their arms around this big behemoth, this big system that we have. How do we stop the gaps? How do we make the interventions that need to be put in place? I'm not doing all of this. I have good people that are willing to volunteer their time in order to be able to do this. So you talk about leadership, it comes in all sizes and shapes and varieties. So they are working diligently on it. We also have another group that's specifically working on these medications because we didn't think about it. We can't distribute the medications. So we had to find a source, and bless I got to tell you folks, Donna Skoda and her folks over at the health department do amazing work, just absolutely amazing work. And so Donna at the health department is going to be the organization that takes it in and puts it out. You might have seen that we just gave some money to medications to Western Reserve Hospital in the falls for opiate treatments. And there are different manufacturers made different settlements where we get the medication. So they are time sensitive, they are order sensitive, and they are shelf life sensitive. So we kind of broke that group off and said, here, you people that know what to use this for, because what the hospitals use, like the adult hospital use something different than children's might use. and the police might use something different than somebody else might use. So we have a whole separate team of working on that. All of this is going on behind the scenes as we move forward in our community. So, and I'm sure you probably have questions about that. So come up to 2020, and now we have COVID in front of us. And because we are a county over 500,000 people, we got a direct allocation from the federal government. The state, every state got an allocation, and counties over 500,000 got a direct allocation. Summit County received $94.4 million with every handcuff you can possibly imagine on how to spend it. Okay. You have the CARES Act, you have the Inspector General at the federal level, you have the Ohio Office of Budget and Management, and you have the Auditor of State, all who have different interpretations of what you can spend this money on. Very little of it is actually clearly defined. But again, I have some tremendous people on my team and some tremendous people in the community that are trying to help us put it where we can as clearly as we can define it. We were one of the few counties that got that allocation that said we wanted to help our communities because our cities and our townships and our villages did not get an allocation. They have since gotten small one, and I understand that the governor has gone to the board, controlling board to help move the dollars because we're going, the state's sitting on a lot of money. Why isn't it coming down? At any rate, we started with a small business emergency loan. We have put out, we started with $750,000 just of Summit County money, not COVID money. And we took that from 750,000 to $1.5 million. Many of our communities came into it. We asked the Greater Akron Chamber if they would facilitate these small business loans. The long and the short of it is, I think at the end of the day, we put in roughly $8.5 million, and we're able to provide grants up to $5,000, depending on what the criteria was, how the size of the business, to over 1,800 small businesses. And the other benefit of that is that we now know where these 1,800 businesses are, and now we have put a group together to start calling on these businesses and see how else we can help them. Many of these are minority and disadvantaged businesses that we didn't even know existed before. So we have another real opportunity to help some folks. And by the way, this was grant money to keep them going. We want to keep these small, they are the lifeblood of our community. We wanted to keep them going. We recently put in our from CARES money rent and mortgage assistance program. That was another $6.5 million. We collaborated on that one with United Way, City of Akron, the Battered Women's Shelter, Fair Housing, Community Legal Aid, bringing all the players together so that they could meet their specific roles. And you heard me mention before, I think it's $1 million that Malcolm and his team will be distributing on utilities. I have to tell you folks, with the cutback of the $600 from unemployment numbers not looking terribly great, I am concerned about rent and mortgage assistance. If somebody was being evicted, we moved them to the top of the line, but I think it's going to get worse, not better, unless we get some relief from the federal government. And the same thing with utilities. We do not want these people living on the street. These are a lot of hardworking, good people that just got caught up in the middle in their businesses. The people that employed them were no longer able to keep them on. So we're really working on that. I mentioned the payroll support grants. In the county itself, we went out to our 31 communities and said, tell us what you need, because everybody's fighting for PPE. So we created a distribution center. We order it in, we buy it in bulk. They order it online and we put it back out to them, and we're using CARES money to do that. We created a division of COVID relief in the county and put many of our non-essential people in there to work so that we could keep them working. And they are out doing work at the zoo and different locations across our community, helping to do some work so that that frees up some of the talent in those organizations to be able to do other work. We're looking at trying to do some stuff with nonprofits. That's a bit trickier. because it doesn't say that in the CARES Act. So some hurdles and some clarity that we need to get through on there. All of this with the backdrop of what we do every single day, our jobs and family service, our economic development, our workforce, all of the initiatives that go on. I could go on for forever, but what I want to know is what you want to know. But I will also have to say, this isn't one person doing this. This is a whole community doing this, and everybody coming up in their way. And I have to tell you, we went to the chamber, the Greater Akron Chamber. They said, how can I help? We went to United Way. They said, how can I help? We went to Malcolm. How can I help? Everybody wants to do their part. And we try to create an environment where they can bring the best of what they have to offer. And they are all showing leadership. And I am just eternally grateful. Folks, most of us could live anywhere we wanted to. And this is where I want to be. And I see somebody's thumb up there. Is that Malcolm? I don't have my chat on. Anybody want to ask me anything?
Yeah, Eileen, this is Bill Manby. I'm going to kind of
Hi,
handle
Bill.
that. Hey, how are you? Thanks
Good.
for taking time today.
Oh, no problem.
So we got a couple questions before I get into those.
Sure.
Dave had asked me to put up the last call for the lottery.
Oh, sure.
So just put their dollar amount in the chat and he'll grab those. But Terry had a question. His was the first one up there. It says, how does the ADM board tie into the health department with opioid settlement dollars?
They are working, well, there's two pieces. Jerry Craig is working on the medication part of it because he's kind of a guru of that stuff. So he's working with the health department on that and a couple of other agencies. Again, you got to know what these medications are for and the life expectancies and all those kinds of things. He also has one of his people on the OAAC. And so, which is the Abatement Advisory Council, a court set down 4 abatement areas that they'll be working in. And the purpose of the OAAC is to look at that system, but not in silos, Bill. We want to look across the system to be able to do that. And so we needed to bring some subject matter experts to the table in both of those areas. So ADM is at the table on both sides of that particular issue. Mm-hmm. As are public safety and a bunch of other folks that are there. Did that answer that?
Eileen, yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Katie had a question, said, understanding that we don't want anyone evicted during this time of COVID, is there help for landlords that are in need of payments for mortgages, taxes, etc.?
Well, if you're a landlord, that's what they're working with. And Phil is still online. He could give you more information about that. But that's who's getting the money, okay, are the landlords. So they have to track down through the banks or whoever it is, who do they actually owe their rent to? So I believe that's being paid directly to the landlords. And I think I don't think all of the money's gone out because some are harder to find than others. And some maybe, who knows where they are, but working through the process. And also I believe they've got the banks involved in that to help us get it through. But if somebody is literally being evicted, they were fast tracked. So they weren't put out on the street through the legal services and so on and so forth. And if Phil's on the line, there's any details he wants to jump in on that, he certainly can.
Yeah, Eileen, you're exactly right. We're working through the process. I think a little over $1 million in rental assistance has already been paid. We're still working through the rest of the applications. I know Community Legal Aid is working with at least 85 folks in terms of stopping eviction proceedings. And through Community Action, we did do $1 million contract with them. I know over $300,000 has been paid or is being paid this week to the city of Akron for utility bills. And then between the electric and gas companies, we've paid over $100,000 through Community Action as well. So we're doing the best we can. And I know, as the executive said, we know there's going to be another wave, and we're going to be as ready as we can to help do that too.
And Phil, wasn't it over 3,000 unique applications you got through that?
Yeah, it's 3,210.
People that were just asking. I think it was only open a week, correct?
I was open for 2 business weeks, so I think it was 11 days total.
Okay.
Hey, Eileen, our guest from California was asking if you'd move to California and run for governor, but I think we have a bunch of people on this call that don't want that to happen.
There are too many wildfires out there. My goodness, it's just, it's just crazy. Every year you see that out in California, and the ground doesn't move much in Ohio, so I'm probably staying put.
Hugh is asking, are you involved in the redevelopment of downtown Akron? He said he's so disappointed in the slow progress on Main Street.
The philosophy of working with our communities is that we support what they are trying to do. Okay, we don't tell them what to do, but I can tell you, we are attached to the city by my right hip and a lot of others on my left hip. So what happens in the city of Akron dictates a lot of what will happen community-wide. So we are in and out of projects with them all the time. The streetscape we were tangential to, we were involved, but we were not the decision makers in that project. But I can tell you, when I look out my window and I see how the face of Main Street is changing, because I have a catbird seat, I just look out across the Civic. I understand that Main Street traffic might be interrupted, but I also understand the Bowery building project is leasing up like crazy. The law building is going to be finished shortly. I can see them out of my other window. And hopefully we will, once we get through COVID, because there are not the same number of people downtown, that's clear. And traffic patterns are going to change. And that will cause a lot of people. I mean, I've been coming downtown I've been in Akron since '77, since I came to town. So I'm used to it, but for people who aren't, and I'm also highly empathetic to the businesses that might have been hurt. The peanut shop, for example, they've been in business for as long as I can remember, and getting deliveries and stuff. So it has been a challenge, but I think the city is very sensitive to that, and that as we look at other projects, trying to make sure that we are minimizing any other disruption that might happen. It's something that's certainly going to be taken into consideration, because I don't know if you guys saw, we're going to do something with the Fair Lawn Gig. And bringing that into our courthouses and to public safety entities. I think if any of you are familiar, the Fair Lawn Gig, Mayor Roth out there he just jumped ahead and created his own utility back when the feds were talking about not doing it. And so we are council just approved last night, and I'm going to sign the papers today for a grant to them. So that this will be no touch, and our court systems will all be able to talk. They'll be able to sheriffs will not have to take prisoners and transport them. And I mean, it's just going to be really good, but it will be, and all supposed to be done by December 30th, if possible. Anyway, that was a long way to say, yes, we work with the Akron, but we are in and out involved depending on what the project is.
And Karen asks, as both a leader of business and government, any words of wisdom on leading in the area of diversity and inclusion in our own organization?
Absolutely.
That she's been talking to many who are struggling with wanting to make a difference, but are having difficulty identifying where to start.
Well, I would tell you, if you're the leader of your own organization, you ought to start by looking at yourself. You know, they talk about unconscious biases. We don't know what we don't know about ourselves. The messaging, the way we talk to other people, the term, in some cases, the term he is used as generic. Many of the women take offense to that. When it comes to diversity and inclusion, you're talking about a wide umbrella. And if you don't know who you are and what you believe, it's really hard to be the leader to make the change. I have adopted the philosophy for the county that, you know, many companies pick one person and say, this is my diversity and inclusion and equity officer. And somehow then that person becomes responsible for all of those activities, and they're held accountable for that. I think the leader of the organization has to be the one to walk the walk and to be able to instill that throughout the organization. So if you're not looking at yourself first, I don't know how you're going to be able to translate that to it. I will tell you that there's work going on at the Greater Akron Chamber and some other organizations that you might want to get in touch with as we study what's going on in our community and where are some pressure points and how we can learn. There's several programs that are going on in there. Elevate Greater Akron also has programs. So if you don't know where to go and need help, just reach out to some of these folks, some of these committees that are together, and either join or pick their brains, quite honestly, so that you can figure out where you are as a business and where you want to go. I think that you leave a lot of talent behind if you don't include people of all colors, religions, beliefs, and structures, because I'm not smart enough to know who's got the next best idea. I'm just not. So I hope that answered that.
And Katie said, thanks for all your leadership and answers. And I think kind of our last question comes from John, where he asked, what is the latest from Washington, if any, regarding help for rent, utilities, and unemployment? Have you heard anything?
Oh, there's one word I could use, and it's oi. Do you all know what oi means? Someone's like, oh my God. There is a feeling from the administration that they do not want any money to go to support local government. In doing that, they have tied the language in the CARES Act. They are fighting now over what should be in this last tranche of money. There are some that believe that we've already put out a lot of money. Well, personally, I believe that that money is what's kept our economy even where it's at now. Okay, so when that money goes away, the $600 goes away, those safety nets fall apart. The demand on social services becomes even greater. So it's really hard sometimes. You want to take them and say, come down here, come down to the street level with us and see what's going on. And then you live with the fact that somebody doesn't have food on their table, or those kids, the moms and dads have to make choices about whether or not they can go to work and stay home from school because of COVID, and there's no resources that come from that. There are two clearly different philosophies that are going on, and the country is stuck in the middle until we get some clarity on it. It is frustrating. We talked to NACO, which is our national association. We've talked to CCAO, which is the county association. I sit on the National Board of County Executives. We are on the phones with Senator Brown, Senator Portman, all of our Tim Ryan, Marcia Fudge, I can go on and on and on, trying to send the message that somewhere in between where you all are, you got to stop and put down whoever it is and all of the slinging and the nastiness and whatever, because we've got real people out here that are hurt. And until something moves off the dime in DC, all we can do here locally is as much as we can do to be able to help these people, because as they say, all government is local. And I do not know what goes on in many of those folks' brains in DC. And until such time they can get their act together, we're going to do as much as we can do here. So the answer to your question is, it's gridlock. Nancy Pelosi brought the House back. I know a lot of people were very angry that both houses went out, that the Senate and the House went out. They should be working on this stuff. And they adjourned. Nancy Pelosi brought the House back, and the Senate is still out. And it's just beyond frustrating. And I could use some other adjectives, but I'll leave it at that.
Well, Eileen, I speak for a number of people. If you could see the chat line, that just really appreciate you not just taking the time, but the leadership, the insight, and fighting the good fight for all of us. So
thank you all.
I think that's it as far as questions go. And I don't know, John, if you want to close out the meeting, or is my role done?
Thank you, Bill, very much. Okay, thank you. And Eileen, thank you so much.